Welcome back to AMC Coming Soon. This is the show where we preview all the upcoming releases and we rank them by our anticipation level. Joining me as always on the table, first, Chocolate City himself, it's David Griffin.
Thank you for having me again. Chocolate City here. Happy to be here with the Bro Crew. Hashtag Bro Crew with the boys today. Chocolate City.
Next to him, you know him from AMC Movie Talk. He's the funny guy, Mark Ellis. What's up, man?
Thank you. The funny guy. Sorry, ladies. I retired the Hawaiian shirt. Maybe not forever, but it's in the Smithsonian where it belongs.
Well, where we belong is right here, talking about all the movies coming out this week. We got a bunch of cool ones, but before we get into that, I want to tell you on how our system breaks down. Pretty easy. Here is the chart. 1, not interested. Doesn't sound too good. Doesn't look too good. I don't want to see it. 2, curious. There's some things in there that might get me into the theater, but I might have to be convinced just a little more. 3, seeing it. There's enough. You've sold me. I'll check it out. Maybe I'll love it. 4, opening weekend. This movie has sold me on everything I've seen so far. I'm ready to go. 5, camp out. Can't wait. Was excited just from the moment they announced it was coming out. This is going to add into everything going on today because we have a lot of fun ones. Let's start with the first one, and that movie is called Dope. It is directed and written by Rick Famuyiwa, and it stars Zoe Kravitz, Kiersey Clemons, and Shameik Moore. Synopsis is pretty fun. Life changes for Malcolm, a geek who's surviving life in a tough neighborhood, after a chance invitation to an underground party leads him and his friends into a Los Angeles adventure. Now, I have seen this movie. And I will just say, even beforehand, I had heard a lot of great buzz just coming, believe at a Cannes, I think, or maybe even, I forget.
One of those fancy film festivals.
One of the film festivals where it was playing, and people were raving about it. Even before I had seen it, looking forward to it, had like a license to drive type feel to it as well, too. One of those adventures kind of stepping into something that they didn't know was going to happen. I like the elements that these guys are 90s hip-hop fans living here today, and they have like this fascination with the old hip-hop, and they play it throughout the movie. So, yeah, for me, it was seeing it from the second I started hearing about it. So, Mark, what about you?
I'm going to go opening weekend because of all the buzz that I've heard around it. I initially heard what it was about. You sell me on geeks in a tough neighborhood, and they have this adventurous night. It sounds like License to Drive is one you could put. I'd also throw a touch of Superbad in there.
Yeah.
And, again, everything that I've seen from the trailer to all the buzz, like you who've seen it. I know a lot of people have already seen this movie, and nobody has a bad thing to say about it. So that ups it to an opening weekend kind of release for me.
David?
I'm thrilled. Opening weekend for me as well. It's nice to see. You don't get to see this that often, where you get to see African Americans in the inner city that are geeks. You know, I always complain. Sometimes I pick on, Wes Anderson, some of those guys who are very talented filmmakers, but the movies are directed towards a certain demographic, certain audience, very Caucasian based. And I like that this is now an inner city. Look at the inner city kids growing up in the streets where your street cred is based on how tough you are and all that. But these guys are geeks, and like, how do they survive in that? How do they work in that, society? How do they react? And I love that we're going to get that kind of a film. We don't see that very often. I can't name another movie that as a sub that's around this culture that I've seen like that.
I agree with you, because that's the biggest sell, I think, to this, is that it's not just a cliched. You see the story, and I don't know how much it doesn't give too much away from the trailer, so I don't want to give too much away from the movie, but just where it goes and how they play it. It's a nice dynamic. It's a story of friendship. It's a story of just a bizarre adventure. So yeah, before seeing it, it was seeing it for me.
Yeah, anytime you get a coming of age story like that, it sounds like something I'd want to see. And the comedic beats, it looks like they nail them. Again, I haven't seen the movie yet, but this looks like something that's going to be funny.
Yeah, and I love it. I mean, it's produced by Forrest Whitaker, who does like a lot of the narration. Pharrell Williams produced as well too. I think Sean Combs had something to do with it. So it's the music itself, even in the trailer, like the stuff that they play.
It takes place in modern day, right?
It takes place in modern day, and they just, speaking of being geeks, that one of their geeks, as we geek out about Star Wars and everything else too, they geek out about like 90s hip hop. They love it. I mean, the one guy's even got the high top fade. It's amazing.
Nothing wrong with being down with OPP.
Absolutely not.
You know me.
All right, next coming out next is Inside Out. It's the latest from Pixar. Directors Pete Docter, Ronaldo del Carmen, starring Rashida Jones, Amy Poehler, Louis Black. Synopsis is: after young Riley is uprooted from her Midwest life and moved to San Francisco, Her emotions, joy, fear, anger, disgust, and sadness conflict on how best to navigate a new city, house, and school. David, let's start with you, man. So seeing so far from these trailers and things that you've heard, what's your level like for this one?
Because of everything I've heard and the trailers, this is camp out for me. I'm going with a 5. I know Alicia had good things to say. Kristian, you. I mean, this just looks awesome. When Pixar's on point, they can just pull your heartstrings in the best ways. I mean, Up. Wally's one of my favorite movies of all time. Like, that movie that wrecked me the first time I saw it. You know, I don't get teary-eyed often, but that one did it for me. I feel like Disney, even though I know it's under the same umbrella, I feel like the Disney Animation Studio House has been a little bit more on track with, Wreck-It Ralph and Frozen. But I think Pixar is ready to pick it back up again. I feel like since Up and Wall-E, they haven't had 2 back-to-back films that are just awesome. But I think this one could do it.
Mark?
Yeah, this seemed like when I first heard about it, Kristian and I were talking that it sounds like Herman's Head, that Fox sitcom from the 90s that nobody remembers. But it's such an interesting premise. And I had the opportunity to go to Pixar and see some behind the scenes as to how the movie was put together from all the different departments, as well as the first hour of the movie. And this thing is totally a opening weekend for me. I can't quite get it to camp out, but I'm really pumped to see this, particularly the casting of Amy Poehler as Joy and the way that character looks, and Lois Black, one of my favorite comedians, as Anger. There may never be better voiceover casting than Lois Black playing the very emotion that is anger. 5 emotions inside your head, duking it out, going on an adventure. It's a blast.
5 emotions, 5 stars for me. It's a camp out because when we got to see the footage from D23 2 years ago, they showed a little. The animation wasn't even done yet, but they had the script was intact, and they really showed what was happening with this thing. And I was already on board because it seemed like you were saying, David, when Pixar's on point, they are on point. Right. And that was certainly the case for the stuff that I saw, and even in the trailers. And it's original. It's like the last thing that they did was Monsters U, and some people liked it. I wasn't a huge fan of it, and it was them going back to what was familiar again. And it seemed like they were like, okay, we did it. It did good, but let's go back to doing what we do well and creating original stories and original characters. And it looks like we're getting that with the comedic elements and beats. And I think what Pixar does well, I haven't seen it yet, but I'm looking forward to. But in the comedy for kids and the comedy for adults. Again, when Pixar does it well is when both kids and adults can really appreciate it.
It's nice to make kids laugh. It's always great when you're an adult and you can laugh at an animated feature. And what Pete Docter was able to do so well with Up was not only do that, but also just rip your heart out and show it to you while it's still beating. I mean, the first 10 minutes of Up, you're an emotional mess after that, but you still appreciate what the movie was able to do because you felt something. Hey, look at that.
Right, Wall-E did the same thing. I mean, I remember I went to see it, and there was a little girl behind me. I remember watching the opening to that, and I'm like, man, there's no dialogue for the first 30 minutes or so. I mean, yeah, Wall-E doing some silly things, but I was like, are kids going to be able to get into this? And it seems like everybody in the audience enjoyed it.
I was snoring, but if you say so.
Oh no,
not a big Wall-E guy.
Oh,
not a big Wall-E.
I don't like Short Circuit either.
Johnny Five watching show tunes. No thanks.
Johnny Five alive.
You just lost. But you know what? The other thing that I think that we can all pretty much agree on is that the fact that you're going to have these 5 emotions, this movie's going to be an emotional movie in general. Just for the fact of what this kid is going to be going through, just in that one shot with her in school and being nervous to put her hand up first, and the emotion of her, that's her fear, and playing off a kid's fears and emotions and dealing with their parents. I really do think it's going to pull on the heartstrings because this looks like a movie you can really relate to in a very comedic way.
Could be a real good year for Pixar with this and The Good Dinosaur. It could be them coming back to form with original, like you said, motion pictures.
Totally agree. All right, moving on. The next movie is called Infinitely Polar Bear. It is directed and written by Maya Forbes, believe she's a first-time director, starring Zoe Saldana and Mark Ruffalo. Synopsis is a manic-depressive mess of a father tries to win back his wife by attempting to take full responsibility of their 2 young, spirited daughters who don't make the overwhelming task any easier. Mark, what do you think?
You know, it felt like a seeing it to me because I was intrigued, and I'm going to go opening weekend because I did some research on Maya Forbes, and this is almost about her life story because when she was a child, she did live with her father who was diagnosed as being bipolar. When you put Mark Ruffalo in that role, you can see what that guy did with roles like Begin Again or Thanks for Sharing or The Kids Are All Right. He can be in a dramatic film but still have a little touch of comedy and lightness to it, which is what I think you want to bring to something like this. So I'm seeing it opening weekend.
David?
I'm a 3. I'm seeing it. Marcus, I agree with you. This looks excellent. I mean, the cast, the performances, I'm sure are going to be. It's one of those films that looks like it's going to be tough to get through. it's going to be hard to get through. It's not the filmmaker's fault. It's just one of those movies that's going to just jerk you around. And I mean, I know I like it when the girls say, like our dad's, polar bear or something,
Right.
like, or it's like, no, it's bipolar,
Right.
And of course you think of Still Alice, of course, it just came out, and
Right.
Julianne Moore's excellent performance on that. So it's like it's going to be another gut wrencher. But I mean, definitely a seeing it. This movie should be seen. I'm sure it's going to be well done.
Yeah, I'm going to go seeing it as well out of 3 because Mark Ruffalo, when he's in movies like this, for whether it be The Kids Are All Right, Begin Again,
Normal Heart too was
Normal
really,
Heart,
really good.
Thank you for sharing or not sharing. Whatever
Thanks
it
for
was.
sharing,
Thanks
yeah.
for sharing. Those when he's in movies like that, yeah, we know him as the Hulk at this point too, and even in the Magic movie. But when he's at his best, it's in movies like this, and it looks like he's again going to shine in this movie. I want to see, being a dad, watching the fact that he's got to do it on his own. 2 girls, even that one shot in the trailer where she's like, "Well, I had the idea that you could take care of me." He's like, "Me?" Like that said it all. That's the movie. The movie should be called Me with a question mark because you see what he's gonna have to do. You kind of know where it's gonna go, but maybe not because of his disorder. So I think that this is absolutely a family movie, and it's a movie like you said that people should see because to know about this disorder, I'm sure everybody knows somebody who is diagnosed with this in some way or another.
Yeah, and the trailer does a nice job of giving us a version of the story, but not telling us exactly what's going to go down in it. And I love the opening scene when they're looking at this house that his family used to grow up in.
Right.
And then it's like, do we actually go up to that house? Do we see what? I moved around a lot. I've been to my old houses, and you feel weird, like, hey, you don't know me, but can I go up to my bedroom real quick?
Seems like the perfect way to do a robbery. It's like
It's not a bad idea.
It's like someone like, did you really used to live here? No, give me your wallet. That's what it seems like that could happen. In
What are you guys doing later?
Yeah. But before we start going into usual suspects mode here, we're going to move into the final movie, and that is Burying the Ex. Director Joe Dante of Gremlins fame directs this one, with starring Anton Yelchin, Ashley Greene, and straight off of San Andreas, Alexandra Daddario. Synopsis: a guy's regrets over moving in with his girlfriend are compounded when she dies and comes back as a zombie. David, what do you think?
This is for me. I think this is the one. I don't know. I just look at it. Is this iZombie Part 2? We already have iZombie on TV. I
Yeah.
don't know if I need to see another one. We had Cold Bodies. I don't know. I mean, Alexandra Daddario is beautiful. I thought she was awesome in True Detective. She looks great on screen. She's still, every time I say this, she's still my Wonder Woman. I wish she was cast as Wonder Woman. Oh, well. Then Ashley Greene's back, Twilight, fame. Ashley Greene's back doing her thing. Another undead, coming back doing her thing. I don't know. It just looks. There's nothing interesting that I was drawn to, either the casting or the trailer. Just nothing pulled me in. Now, this could be one of those films you just don't see coming, and then when you see it, you're like, wow, there's something unique here. But for me, it's a 1 right now.
Yeah, I'm at a 1 with you, man. I am not interested in this movie. I think the word you're looking for is it looks dopey. The movie looks
Not dope.
not
dopey.
dope.
No, dope looks dope.
I think it looks a bit dopey, but you're absolutely right. This movie you could go in there with the expectations of it not being good and come out going, well, I was Shaun of the Dead. Or even Cold Bodies. You can,
Warm Bodies.
Warm Bodies. I got that wrong.
Warm
I'm sorry.
Bodies.
Yeah,
Warm Bodies. You can walk out saying it's one of those. It's very possible because now look, with Anton Yelchin and Alexandra Daddario, those are 2 really good actors and actresses. I didn't put Ashley Greene in there yet.
She was great in Twilight.
So good.
Yeah,
So good. So
but
dope in Twilight.
It's just I don't know where this movie really could go because it's not it's not that the first time you go, oh well, this seems kind of like an interesting premise. You've seen it before. The examples you brought up, you've seen it before, so that's not going to win me over. The only thing that can win me over is that they take it into a new spin. It's really funny, and the performances knock me out of my socks, which I don't know. Well, Mark,
I'm seeing it.
seeing it.
I'm
Wow,
seeing it.
interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I was at least curious because the name Joe Dante does something within the
True.
horror comedy
True.
realm with Gremlins as well. And Anton Yelchin did a great job in the new Fright Night, which is both a horror and a comedy when you watch it. And I think that this, there's just something funny about the fact that he's about to break up with this chick and then she dies and then she's coming back to life. How do you, and I know you got Alexandra Daddario waiting for you, but you also have to deal with your ex who's still your current. She thinks you're your current and she's undead. She's a zombie. How do you deal with all that? There's a lot of comedic opportunity in there. And like you guys said, Warm Bodies was a movie I wasn't looking forward to at all. And it surprised the heck out of me. So by the very genre itself, I am forced to be seeing this movie.
Yeah, I'm going back and looking at some of Joe Dante's last stuff.
boy. Here it comes.
This was supposed to come out in like 2014, by the way, this movie.
Well, that's last year.
Which is, he's done TV since, he hasn't done any movies.
How's the TV?
It's all right. Hasn't done any movies really in a while. So I don't know. It doesn't seem, like Gremlins 2. The new batch. That was his last movie.
Another great horror comedy.
But anyway, so I don't know. We'll see. Maybe we're wrong. Fingers crossed that we're wrong on that one and that it turns out that we should have been camped out for it. That's it. That's today's episode. I'd like to thank the panel today. First, David, where can the good people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at GriffinDE.
And Marcus Ellis Aurelius, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me at my YouTube channel, Schmoes. No, I do that show with some other guy named Kristian Harloff, and you can find me on Twitter at 5150Ellis.
And myself, Kristian Harloff. You can find me at Kristian Harloff on both Twitter and Instagram. And like Mark said, please subscribe to Schmoes No. Get us to over 200,000 subscribers. That'd be great. That'd be a camp out. That's it. Make sure you check out next week. We're all here. We'll see you coming soon.